Alright, before this video begins, I just want to say that when I recorded this, I decided to give you guys every single detail of my story, which is why this video is so long, because I kind of rambled a lot. But if you want a condensed, sub 1 minute version of what happened, you can go to this timestamp right here. Also, I thought I would do things just a little bit differently for this video, so I decided not to add any music or sound effects, meaning that the video is just my own commentary and gameplay. That's all, I hope you enjoy. How's it going, guys, and welcome to a brand new SkilliamSkillium YouTube video, where today I'll be telling you guys all about my recent 2-night stay at the hospital. Alright, so I'm going to start this story by going all the way back to a few weeks ago so that you guys can get all the context. A couple weeks ago, on Monday the 9th, I decided to start going to the gym in the mornings with a few of my friends. They'd been going on and off for a while now, and I'd been wanting to join them, but I couldn't because of some wrist complications that I had. Okay. Basically, I've had ganglion cysts on both of my wrists, which, if you don't know what they are, I'm not going to explain it right now. I still have one, but it's not causing me any pain, so I decided to start going to the gym anyway. So I went to the gym for the first time on Monday, which was a push day. One of my friends came up with a program for us based off of some different exercises that he found online and that he's learned over the course of high school. And how it works is Mondays and Thursdays are push days, where you do exercises that involve pushing motions, like bench presses, shoulder presses, lat raises, etc. Tuesdays and Fridays are pull days, and Wednesdays and Saturdays are leg days. So we went on Monday for push day and it was fine. You know, I did all the exercises, no problem. The next day I woke up and I was a little bit sore, but nothing out of the ordinary for, you know, your first time back at the gym in several years. I haven't actually lifted weights in a gym since my freshman year, so it's been a while to say the least, and I was expecting it to get pretty sore. Anyway, I go to the gym again on Tuesday. I don't feel too sore during the workouts, everything is good, and that's that. I wake up on Wednesday and I'm feeling considerably more sore than I did Tuesday, and it kind of gets worse throughout the day, to the point where at the end of the day I can't comfortably extend my arms all the way out. Like, it's much more comfortable to have them bent at the elbow quite a bit. Now, I've never been that sore before in my life, but I didn't think anything weird of it. Oh, and also I do leg day and, you know, it's fine. I wake up on Thursday and I decide to skip the gym that day because my arms are still feeling incredibly sore, and I think it's probably best to give my day an extra body to rest. I do go again for pull day on Friday though, and that's fine. You know, I'm not able to do as many pull-ups as I usually can, but I kind of just assume that that's because I'm still getting used to lifting weights. I can win this. There we go. I decided to take Saturday off as well because my legs are still feeling pretty sore from Wednesday. I take Sunday off. Sunday's always a rest day. This guy's clapping me.
1 minute, 37 seconds later.
So I take Saturday and Sunday off. I go again to the gym on Monday for push day. And I'm feeling, like I said, pretty sore still. But I'm able to do all 3 of my sets of bench presses without any issues. And then when I go to the next exercise, which is shoulder presses, I'm looking in the mirror and I notice that my left upper arm is looking really swollen around the tricep area. I pointed out to my friends and they all agree that my arm is definitely looking pretty swollen, and they said that they've never experienced anything like that before. So I'm kind of confused as to why it's doing that. However, I'm still able to finish the workout. There's only one exercise that I can't really do, which is skull crushers. If you know what those are, they're like a tricep exercise, which makes sense that would be something that I couldn't do since that was the part of my body that was really swollen. But I do all the rest of the workout without issue, and it's all good. I go home and show my mom my arm, and she is pretty concerned about it. She takes a picture of it and sends it to my doctor, who responds and says that we should go and see urgent care that same day and get my arm evaluated by an orthopedic doctor so that they can tell us what's happening. The urgent care near us doesn't actually open until 4 p.m., so we have most of the day to just kind of do whatever. And during that time, both me and my mom decide to look into what could be causing my arm to be swollen, and we find out that it could be this condition called rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdomyolysis, or rhabdo for short, is basically a condition where your muscle kind of breaks itself down and releases a lot of this protein called myoglobin into your bloodstream, which is not good. In severe cases, if it goes untreated, it can lead to kidney failure and even death. However, the main symptoms for rhabdo are swelling, really dark like brown or red colored urine, as well as excruciating pain. Now, obviously, of those symptoms, I only had the swelling, so I wasn't thinking that that was what I had, but it was kind of a scary possibility in the back of our mind. So anyway, we end up going to urgent care at like 3:45 so that we can get there a little bit early. We eventually get seen by an orthopedic doctor who asks me a bunch of questions, only some of which actually seem relevant. Like, one question they asked me was about my recent trip up north. They asked me how long the drive was home. I don't know how that was important for her evaluation, but whatever, she decided to ask it. And basically, her final conclusion conclusion was that she didn't know what it was, but it was possible that it could be rhabdo, like we had read about. And so she recommended that we go to the ER immediately to get some blood tests done. Also, I forgot to mention it, but at the urgent care, they actually took x-rays to rule out the possibility of like a fracture or a broken bone in like my upper arm or elbow. And my arm looked fine. There weren't any fractures or broken parts. So that was basically out of the question, which I wasn't expecting it to be because I haven't had any recent like trauma or injuries to my arm. So I didn't think that that was the case. But anyway, we go to the ER, which is thankfully very nearby. It's like a 2-minute drive from the urgent care. And my family's actually been to this ER several times in the past. And every time they've gone, they've had pretty negative experiences, unfortunately. So we were a little bit hesitant about going there. But it was the closest one to our house, and that's where the doctor told us to go, so that's where we went. We go to the ER and check in, and I tell my mom that she can't wait with me because I'm an adult, so she has to wait outside the building, which is kind of dumb because my sister actually went to the ER like just a few weeks ago, my older sister that is, who turns 21 this year. And they had no problem letting my mom stay with her, so I don't really understand that inconsistency, but hey, this last guy's named Sam has the Rona. That's not true. So anyway, we check in, I go to the waiting room, and I'm vibing there for a while. I get called into triage, which if you don't know what triage is, I didn't before this. It's like a room where you get evaluated by a couple people to see how urgent your condition is. For example, if you have like a fresh gunshot wound, then you're probably gonna get treated earlier in the ER than someone who has like a non-time sensitive condition. I tell them my condition, you know, my arm is swollen, but I just got x-rays taken at the urgent care to rule out the possibility of like a broken bone, and that the doctor there told me that it could be rhabdo, so we should go to the ER to get tested for rhabdo. They look at my arm a little bit and they think that my condition probably isn't rhabdo for some reason. They gave me an explanation, but I don't really remember what they said. I think they said that rhabdo usually affects different muscle groups than what I had, which I think is true, because I'm pretty sure I read that rhabdo most commonly affects like your shoulders, lower back, and thighs or something like that. Those are the regions that are most commonly affected, which obviously isn't your tricep. They also tell me that they're going to take their own x-rays just to be sure that it's not a broken or fractured part of my body, which, you know, is kind of just a big waste of time because I just had my x-rays taken like not even an hour before. But whatever, that's just the American healthcare system for you, I guess. So maybe like 10 or 20 minutes later-ish, I get called in to get some x-rays taken. They take the exact same 3 x-rays as they did at the urgent care, so by the time they got to the 3rd one, I literally put my arm where they wanted me to before they even asked me to, because I knew exactly what they were going to say. And then they take me to get an ultrasound done, which is kind of weird. I didn't know that ultrasounds were used to look at other parts of the body. Like, I know that you can use ultrasounds to look at babies in the womb or whatever, like you can monitor their health and stuff, but I didn't know that you could just look at like any part of the body with an ultrasound. So that was kind of interesting. But that was like a half-an-hour process. And the whole point of the ultrasound was to rule out the possibility of me having a blood clot in my arm. And when those results came back, they showed that I didn't have a blood clot, so that was pretty cool. After they did the x-ray and the ultrasound, I got sent back to the waiting room, where I waited like an hour-ish, maybe a bit more than that, before I finally got called into a different room where I thought they were putting an IV in my arm for later. It was already like 8 p.m. by now. I think we got to the hospital around 5 p.m. and they still hadn't done the blood test that we wanted them to do when we pulled up in the first place. So I asked the nurse who was putting my IV in how long it would take for me to actually see a doctor, and she told me that she basically had no idea because there were over 40 patients in the waiting room, and she didn't know where I would be on that list of patients. At this point, I'd been texting my parents like this whole time, and I kind of asked them if I could just leave and get the blood test done the next day, because since I wasn't in any pain, I didn't have any other like crazy symptoms, I didn't think that my case was really that urgent that I had to be treated like that night for whatever it was that I had. And it turns out that my dad had actually called the hospital earlier to ask them if I could leave because we were kind of getting fed up at waiting for, you know, over 3 hours just to get the test taken that we went there to get taken in the first place. And they allowed me to leave, so that was cool. I got out. I got out and went home. I ate dinner, you know, it was a much later dinner than I usually eat. And then during dinner, like halfway through, there's this app that you can use to monitor your test results, like they all get inputted there. It's called MyChart, and during dinner we got a notification on the MyChart app saying that my blood test results were available, and we were like, wait, what? We didn't know that they took a blood test, because I think what happened was when I thought they were putting an IV in, they were actually also drawing blood. So apparently they did take a blood test like right before I left the ER, which was super lucky, because in the results for that we saw that my CK levels, which stands for creatine kinase, which is an enzyme that gets released when your muscle breaks down. As far as I know, it's like the main and only diagnostic for rhabdo. Normal CK levels are somewhere between like 20 and 200 units per liter, something like that. and mine were 31,000, so just a tad bit elevated. We saw that and I realized that I had to go straight back to the hospital, so I quickly packed a bag because I had actually read about rhabdo earlier in the day, and this one lady who had it had to stay overnight in the hospital for 4 days before she was finally allowed to go back home. So I realized that I was probably gonna have to stay there for several nights. So I packed a bag and then we headed back to the hospital. These people just want to fireball me, I can already tell. Stop it, Red. I'm not even going for you right now. Okay, we made it. So yeah, we get back to the hospital. They check me in. I go to the waiting room and wait there for a while before I eventually get called in. Okay, so I'm in the waiting room of the ER, and they eventually call me to go back into a room where they put an IV in my arm and connect me to some saline solution, which is basically how you treat rhabdo. After they put the IV in, they take me back to this little room. It's not really a room, like it's just got a curtain closing it off, and all that's in it is just like a singular chair where I sit for maybe like an hour, and during that there's this machine that's making like this crazy beeping sound. It was kind of driving me crazy, but eventually it stopped. Anyway, I was in that room for a while before I finally got taken back to an actual ER room. I get taken to an ER room where my mom can finally join me. It's now 11 p.m. roughly. And I see a nurse who comes and takes a COVID test as well as a urine sample. After that, we wait in the room until an actual hospital room becomes available, because the ER rooms are just like a temporary place they take you. And then if you have to stay like overnight, you get taken to a different place. So when a room finally comes available, we get moved there, where they have to take me like in a wheelchair. Like they're not allowed to like make me walk for some reason. I don't really know. It's kind of weird because like the reason I'm in the hospital is my arm. It's not like my legs are broken. So yeah, they wheel me all the way across the hospital and up the elevator. I finally get taken to an actual room where I end up staying the night. I have to stay up to get my IV bag replaced and meet my nurses and all that stuff. And by the time I go to bed, it's around 1:30 in the morning. So I go to bed finally. Like I said, it's 1:30. Not too much later than I usually go to sleep, but later than I would like to go to bed. I'm feeling pretty tired, you know, I've had a long day waiting in the hospital and stuff. But then when I try to go to sleep, my IV starts beeping super loud. I look over at it and it says occluded, patient side, which I guess just means that it was being like blocked off or obstructed somehow. So I gotta press the button on my bed to like call in a nurse who just looks at it and basically says that it does that sometimes if you like move into a weird position, but usually it's fine and there's not actually like any problem with the IV itself. So she just presses like a restart button on it and then leaves me to go back to sleep. I try to sleep again. I'm laying on my side facing towards the IV, but then the IV starts beeping again. And I couldn't remember what she did to make it stop beeping, so I have to press the button on the remote again and then wait for my nurse to come in. And she does and shows me how to fix it. This time I try sleeping on my back and just laying as still as possible so that the IV doesn't go off, and that seems to take care of it. It is a little bit annoying to sleep on my back, but you know, not the end of the world. Rats. So I'm finally able to get some sleep until about 2:15 in the morning when a doctor starts knocking at my door trying to come in. Up until this point, I hadn't actually been seen by a doctor yet, so we were kind of waiting to see when that would happen. But 2:15 in the morning is not exactly when I wanted to be seeing them. You know, I'm feeling super groggy because I just had like a 45-minute nap, and I'm scrambling to try and find my mask and my glasses because I've got pretty bad vision, so you know, I usually wear glasses. Please tell me you're dead. Let's go. My vision is really bad, so I usually wear contacts during the day and glasses at night because, you know, you're not supposed to sleep with contacts in. So I'm in my hospital room trying to find my glasses and also put my mask on because, you know, we're still in a pandemic and patients are expected to wear their mask when hospital employees are in their room. But anyway, I eventually get those on, the doctor comes in, and my glasses are just getting so fogged up from my mask and I just can't see anything at all. But, you know, it's fine. It's not that big a deal. She looks at my arm, asks me some questions, you know, yada yada, doctor stuff. Basically tells me that I was admitted for rhabdo, which I already knew. And then she leaves and I'm able to go back to sleep. By now it's like 2:45-ish. I'm still super tired. I try to sleep and then get woken up again at like 4 in the morning when one of my nurse people comes in to draw some blood for another blood test. I'm like 90% asleep during that. You know, I just kind of let her do her thing and try to ignore it. And that was fun, of course. I'm able to go back to sleep though. And then at like 6 a.m. my IV starts beeping like crazy because the fluids in it have run out. So I've got to call my nurse in to replace the bag. And all of this is basically just to say that I didn't sleep super well my first night in the hospital. Man, I just realized I've been recording for like 45 minutes and I'm only like halfway through this story. How did I not break that? I'm livid. I'm gonna die. Okay, we're alive. My dad comes in around like 8:30 or so because he wants to talk to my doctor about my condition. The doctor doesn't end up coming in until like sometime between 1 and 2 p.m. So it was like way later, and I felt really bad because my dad, I think, had to miss work because of that. But you know, it's not really something that I can control. I only have 3 blocks right here. I expected that to happen. So the doctor comes in, asks me some questions, looks at my arms, does a lot of the same things that my doctor did at like 2 in the morning. But he orders an MRI to check to make sure that I didn't have like a muscle tear or a tendon tear or something like that. So I kind of just vibe in my room for a while until some people come to take me to get an MRI scan. I get to the room and I gotta wait a little bit because there's a different person getting an MRI right at that time. The operator guy asks me like twice if I need to use the bathroom, to which I responded no both times because I assume that it's only going to be like a 10-minute scan because that's what the person before me had. But then right before I go in, he tells me that my scan is not going to be a quick one. I ask him how long not quick means, and he says around 45 minutes, at which point I start having some second thoughts about how long I can hold my bladder. However, I just go with it and I'm like, yeah, I'll be fine. 45 minutes isn't that bad. And so the lady before me finishes their scan and I go and I get taken in. The guy asks me what my condition is and I tell him that I've got a pretty swollen arm. He asked me what happened and I was like, I don't know, I was just at the gym and it got kind of swollen. And he was like, yeah, man, you just look really pumped to me. And then he was like, it looks like you just came back from elbow day or something along those lines. And, and it was just making me laugh at the time. So yeah, he was just a pretty chill dude. Anyway, I laid down on the machine and they put this cast sort of thing over my left arm to keep it in place during the scan. And then I go into the machine and it's all good. It feels pretty tight, which is a little bit concerning at first, but they did give me this little button thing like on a line. I don't really know how to describe it, and I could squeeze that if I ever needed to be let out for anything. So I wasn't too nervous, and I'm not claustrophobic or anything, but it was a little bit scary being in a tight machine like that. Thankfully though, when I tilted my head back, I could actually see like the outside room, so like it didn't feel quite so claustrophobic as if I couldn't see the rest of the room. So that made me feel a lot better. But anyway, they also put earplugs in my ears because the machine is actually super loud apparently. Once it started, it was making all these crazy sounds. Like I might be able to put an example in the edit. I closed my eyes as soon as I went into the machine because it's not super fun staring at like just plastic or metal machine 6 inches away from your face. You know, before I knew it, I was asleep and then I got woken up to me being taken out of the machine. So yeah, that was all good. Once I got taken out of the machine, I went to put my earplugs in my pocket because, you know, I was just like, might as well keep them, why not? And the operator guy from earlier who was making the jokes about my arm asked me if I wanted to keep them, and I was kind of like, oh, I mean, I don't know. I thought he was like asking me to throw them away or something. So I threw them in a trash can that was nearby, and he was like, if you want to keep them, I can give you a few pairs. And I was like, oh, okay, sure. So he gave me like 3 free pairs of earplugs. I don't know, that guy was just pretty cool. I liked him. Then I got taken back to my room where I waited for a while. At some point during that day, my blood test results from that morning came in and they showed that my CK levels were down to like 19 or 20,000 or something, which is obviously still elevated, but it was decreased from the initial 31,000. So that was a good thing. My parents came to stay with me around dinner time. And let me say, the hospital food was actually pretty good. They had like a pretty decently sized menu for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And all the food that I got, I actually enjoyed a lot. Hospital food is much better than airplane food, I must say. At least in my case. Alright, later that night my MRI results came in and they showed that my arm was completely fine. Or at least the muscles and tendons in my upper arm were completely fine. Basically, all these tests that they did were trying to figure out like what part of me was injured and what the cause of that injury was. Even by the end of my trip though, they still didn't really have any good explanation or cause for my swelling. I think the final diagnosed cause was just strenuous exercise, which is fairly accurate. Like I'm guessing that I just kind of jumped into it too hard at the gym. Like obviously I pushed myself hard when I was at the gym because that's what you do, you know. I'm not gonna not push myself. That's like the whole reason you're at the gym. If you're not gonna try, then why bother even going? But I'm guessing I also just didn't always have perfect form and maybe should have started with slightly less weight than I did. Oh, okay, that was a lot of fireballs. So I guess I'll keep that in mind when I'm finally able to go back to the gym in a couple of weeks. Because that's what the doctor ordered, is to stay away from all excessive or strenuous exercise for the next couple of weeks. But anyway, the rest of Tuesday, what happened? So I was able to take a shower in my hospital room, which was kind of interesting because they had to take like the IV part out of my arm, but they still left, you know, like the needle part in, if that makes sense. Because there's like a tube that connects you to the fluids. but then there's like the actual needle thing that's like in your arm. They kept the needle part in, but took the tube out. So that way I could like go into the shower. But they had to put like some plastic bags and tape around it. Which was kind of weird, but you know, it worked. During the shower, I tried to keep my right arm out of the water as much as possible because I didn't want water to get into the bags and then, you know, mess up my IV. But that meant that I had to use my left arm to wash myself, which was still pretty swollen, so it was a bit of a challenge. But you know, we got through it and I felt a lot better after I showered. I got my bed sheets changed too, and I definitely ended up sleeping a lot better the second night than the first. It probably also helped that I didn't get interrupted by doctors or nurses at all, but yeah. Goodbye, maybe, yellow team. Let's go. Also, I don't even know if I really explained the treatment for rhabdo very well. Basically, the reason I was in the hospital for 2 nights is so that I could stay on the IV fluids, because that's how you treat rhabdo, is just to introduce a lot of extra fluids into your body so that all the extra protein and enzymes from your muscle breaking down can exit through your kidneys without damaging them. But yeah, Wednesday morning I got my blood taken again. And at that point, my CK levels were down to around 11,000, I want to say, somewhere around there. And it just continued the trend of them decreasing, which meant that I was allowed to go home that afternoon, which was super hype because I did not want to have to sleep over another night in the hospital. Oh, don't stack straight up. Hey, did that work? Bro, where did this guy go? Hey, I found him. And GG. I don't even know what I was just talking about. But yeah, Wednesday afternoon, I was finally able to be discharged from the hospital. Oh, and actually, before I forget, on Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was feeling kind of nauseous, but I didn't actually realize at the time that it was nausea because I'm not really someone who gets nauseous very often. Like the last time I threw up was over 3 years ago when I got a concussion from a baseball injury, which is a whole other story for another day if you guys are interested in that. But basically, I just don't really get nauseous ever. I don't really vomit ever, so I wasn't sure if that's what it was until like right before I was about to throw up. Thankfully, I was able to make it to my bathroom and do it in the toilet, but it was still, not a very fun experience. But yeah, I don't know if my nurse actually told my doctor that I threw up because on my discharge papers, one of the symptoms it told us to look out for after I go back home is vomiting. So we're not like fully sure if my doctor would have actually let me leave the hospital if he knew that I threw up that day. But I'm really glad that he let me go because I haven't had any problems since I left. White, go break his bed. Thank you. Let's see. How do I break this bed? Ow. Hey, White, vibe with me. Vibe with me. I feel so bad for this awkward guy. We're just double teaming on him. This guy's clapping me. Am I final dead? Well, my bed's gone. He's also nicked as I, which doesn't really look like a Hypixel generated nick. So I wonder if this guy is cool. Okay, well, he's dead. Alright, it's clutching time. I think this white guy wants me dead. Whew. Great, I don't want to fight you. I just want to gather emeralds. Dog. Oh, I'm gonna have to fight white too. Hey, this is not fun. I don't like this situation. Can we all just chill out? They both voided. What? I would enjoy it if they decided to go for each other instead of me. Well, what else happened in my story? Basically, I just vibed at the hospital until like 12:30ish, and then I was able to go home, which was very nice. I enjoyed being able to sleep at my own house, and ever since then, I've been fine. I've been drinking tons of water. The swelling has gone down every day, which is nice. I get to go in for some blood work on like Monday or Tuesday or something, and then I have to go see my regular doctor, which is kind of pointless because like, I don't know what they're going to tell me that I don't already know. Okay, Gray's finally breaking white bed and white side to void, so that's pretty nice. But white also defended against Gray somehow. I don't know how that happened. Oh, there's also no emeralds at mid. Who took the M's? Okay, just kidding. There's like 2 or 3. Hey, white, just let me vibe. Why do you have a diamond sword, dog? That's so disgusting. Are you a YouTuber? Alright, you're not very healthy, I'll tell you what. What I want to buy is a straight up pearl, but I don't have enough emeralds for that. Oh, also, one thing I forgot to tell you guys about my hospital visit. I met with this one guy, like a virus guy or something, who was pretty cool. We talked to him basically to see if I might have Lyme disease, which is like a tick-borne illness, if you don't know what it is. What the frick? Why are you here? Okay, yeah, you can break the bed. I don't care. But yeah, we talked to him about Lyme disease. My younger sister's actually gotten Lyme disease twice before. Hey, I don't like that. Okay, you're dead. And your bed is gone too. Let's go, Gray. Some of the symptoms of Lyme disease are like migraines, swelling around joints, and like a bullseye rash. I obviously only had the swelling for that too, so we weren't too confident that that would be what it was. Oh, and White just straight up disconnected. Well, I wonder if that was someone cool that I might know. But anyway, before I end this game. Oh, just kidding. Gray wanted to end the game. GG! Basically, they tested for Lyme disease in my blood and it wasn't that. So we're good on that front. It was just rhabdo. I mean, I say just rhabdo, but anyway, that I think is everything about my hospital stay. I was there for like a total of like 40-ish hours, give or take, but that included 2 nights, so it felt like a lot longer. Hopefully, I was at least a little bit coherent during that. This is like one of the longest recordings I've ever done, and also there was a lot to talk about. I probably didn't make some sense when I said some things, but you guys should understand my situation a lot better than you did before this video, so that's what matters. Here's my attempt at a condensed version of my story. I started going to the gym for the first time in over 3 years, and I either overworked myself or didn't use proper form or didn't stretch adequately, which resulted in me injuring my upper left arm. It got super swollen, so I went to the ER and ended up being admitted for a condition called rhabdomyolysis. Rhabdomyolysis, or rhabdo for short, is basically a condition where your muscle breaks itself down and releases a bunch of excess protein into your bloodstream. In severe cases, if it goes untreated, then all of that extra protein can cause your kidneys to fail and lead to death. However, thankfully, we caught it super early on, so I was able to get to the hospital and get the treatment that I needed. I ended up having to stay overnight at the hospital a couple days, but really that isn't too bad. Anyway, I'm completely fine now, the swelling has gone down, and I was never in any pain, but it was definitely a pretty crazy experience. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this super long, rambly storytime video, then I would appreciate it if you gave it a like, and you already know what I'm going to say. I'll see you in the next one.